I just want to say at the beginning of the time how wild it has been to make this adjustment, how rapidly we are adjusting to this new way of being together as a worshiping community. And also, I just want to share with you all just how vulnerable this feels. I mean, we're in each other's homes right now, right? And you're in my home and I'm in your home. It's so tender and so vulnerable. And so it's at times during our worship service, there have been times to lift up feedback during the worship service. And what I really want to invite you to do, since our staff are working really hard behind the scenes, is if you have any feedback about what you'd like to see or how you'd like to hear us, if you could send us an email, then we can actually respond to you and hear you in real time. Because right now, there's all kinds of things. I wish I could show you my setup. Maybe I'll share something later, but I'm set up here like on a cat tree with a bunch of different stuff around. So we really just want to invite folks to be here, to be present, to enjoy the service. Welcome to First Universalist Church. It's so good to see you all here. And I'm going to mute myself as we start by hearing from Brock, from our church, our music director, Brock Cheswold, from our church organ. Good morning and welcome to the First Universalist Church of Rochester, where we are called to nurture the spirit and to serve the community. Whoever you are, we welcome you here this morning. Wherever you come from, we welcome you here. Whomever you love, we welcome you here into this virtual sacred space. And if you love Easter, or if this is just another day to you, we welcome you here. We welcome all of you. It is good, it is good, it is good to be together this morning. If you are here for the first time this morning, we especially welcome you. At the top of our online service, we want to invite you to please remain muted throughout our service together. When too many voices sing or speak together, it can create a cacophony of voices on our audio, which can disturb the flow and the experience of worship. As we gather this morning, we want to invite you to pop into the chat wherever it is on your screen and offer a greeting. You can find this at the top or at the bottom or on, to the side of your screen. next to the icon of a text bubble and the word chat. So please pop on over and offer a greeting. It could be a wave of a hello, or an I'm here, or a happy Easter, or whatever you prefer. Welcome, welcome, welcome to worship this morning. It is good to be together here at First Universalist Church. As we get ready to sing together, let us join hearts and voices in singing, recognizing that even as we are singing muted from our own home, and even as we feel the loss of being able to sing together, we are creating a song across our city of Rochester and across the country, as folks are a part of this worship service from all over. Let us sing together our hymn number 140, Hail the Glorious Golden City.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Easter to you all. Today's words, At the Cross, are by Molly Housh Gordon. No, this cannot be. The man who came in like a king, our hero, trudging forward like a common thief, spat upon, insulted, betrayed. He carries our hopes, our dreams, our needs, and now he carries the cross. Bruised, bloodied, weak. How could he be beaten? How could he fail us? How could we fail him, standing by helpless or urging them on? No, it cannot be. We are not to blame. We are too powerless, too small. We watched them mock our hope with a crown of thorns, and then they brought out the nails. That is when I turned away. I couldn't watch, but I could hear. Father, forgive them, he said as he died. That was what broke me. Father, forgive them with his last breath. Father, forgive us. And now he is gone. The hands that healed us, the ears that heard us, the heart that beat for us. He is gone. He gave us hope. He gave us purpose. He loved us, and he is gone. Come, let us worship together. As Reverend Lane lights our chalice, will you please join me in saying our chalice words in unison? May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community. Please join me now in our affirmation of faith, followed by our doxology. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all. Last year, we hosted an Easter egg hunt for the children of First Universalist Church and the children who had been staying with us all week through the Rochester Area Interfaith Hospitality Network, RAIN. Carol, my wife, Ruth Lee Barton, and Paula Marchese took time to assemble beautiful Easter baskets for the kids who had been living at church all week, were welcome to participate in the Easter egg hunt in our sanctuary. There were eggs hidden amongst the pews, options for the kids who were gluten-free and even vegan. The baskets were filled to the brim. It was a beautiful Sunday morning filled with partnership, generosity, a treat for all ages, and joy. This year, we had planned to do the same thing for the kids again, but the supplies, minus the candy, will stay in the closet at church until next year. All this is where you come in. Your generous support of our congregation ensures that there will be a fabulous Easter egg hunt next year, the year after that, and the year after that. Your support of our congregation invites people of all ages into spiritual nourishment, joy, partnership, and opportunities to serve our community. Our offering will be collected this morning through a link in our chat box. Please feel free to click there or to mail a check to our church. Either way, we appreciate your generous support. Today's offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Good morning, friends. Just so that it's not just me talking, I pulled out my favorite children's Bible with the pictures that I find most inclusive and representative of the people in the Bible, being mostly Jewish people from the Middle East. Turn my camera around. After Jesus was killed by the Roman authorities and the Jewish men in power, a friend of his, a rich man named Joseph of Arimathea, let him and his friends use his tomb. So Jesus was wrapped in strips of linen, as was their custom, and laid carefully in Joseph of Arimathea's tomb. They rolled a great boulder in front of the tomb so that no one could disturb the body. And some say that Roman soldiers came to guard the tomb to make sure that his body wasn't stolen to fulfill the prophecy of Jesus rising from the grave. Now, it's important to note that the day after Jesus died was a holy day, the Sabbath day, and so his friends had to stay home. But the day after that, 3 of his women friends went to go and take care of the body at the tomb. Many of his men friends stayed home because they were afraid that the Romans would be looking for them too and that they were in danger. But when the women got to the tomb, they found that the stone had been rolled away, that Jesus' body wasn't there, but that the strips of linen were left, and 2 angels were there. The women, of course, at first were afraid, and as in traditional biblical fashion, the angels said, "Do not be afraid." And the angels asked them, "Why do you seek the living among the dead?" And told them that Jesus had fulfilled the prophecy of rising again. The women ran back to the rest of their friends to tell them. They were so excited. You can only imagine. And of course, some of them believed them right away, but others did not. Others, it took time, other visits or interactions with the hope and joy that Jesus had given them to know that that joy, that love, was still alive in the world. And sometimes that's how it is. Even when we're told that we still have reasons to hope and be joyful, that the worst part of the story is not the end of the story, that life goes on, sometimes it takes a while, some more interactions with joy and hope to really believe that love and hope are alive in us. And that's what matters, and that we can share that with the world. Thank you.
Friends, I want to invite you now into this time, this reverent time of listening to the joys and the sorrows of our gathered community. If you would like, you can place a hand over your heart to listen from this heart-centered place. As we place stones from a bowl into a glass of water, please share your joys and your sorrows in the chat that we may hear from the community gathered here. Let us join in this important ritual of sharing our joys and our sorrows. And friends, in the midst of the joys and the sorrows, I will drop one final stone into the glass to represent all of the joys and the sorrows left unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. May all be held in the heart of love. May all be held in the heart of love this morning. Friends, I want to invite you to get comfortable in your chairs, to sit back, to take a deep breath with me. Let's take it together. I want to invite you to just let your shoulders roll down from your ears, to remove hands from the keyboard, to just really settle in to this time when we are deeply in touch with our hearts. Our hearts are tender in this time. The slightest thing can feel so big. The smallest critique, a cutting edge, the sorrow, the overwhelm, the powerlessness, the worry. Our hearts are tender in these times. And we must allow them the space to be tender, to feel the grief and the sadness, to worry and lament, and yes, to cry the needed tears of this moment. Our hearts are tender in these times. And we have the option to harden them, to keep moving forward, to pretend it's all okay, to deny the way this world has changed and the way this new world has changed and shaped us. And yet our hearts remain tender now. In the honesty of it all, in the rage, in the fear, in the sadness, in the deep care and concern for our loved ones and our neighbors, in looking towards a future we cannot fully see or know. Our hearts are tender in this time. So let us remain tender. Let us bring down any sort of guard or wall that we have built up. Let us accept where we are, who we are, what is going on. Let us sit with it for a moment, and let us just sit with our tender hearts. Let us sit with it for a moment in the imperfect silence, in the stillness of this gathered community, in a time when we know others are sitting silently wherever they are in their homes and with their families. Let us sit with our tender hearts and allow the silence to draw forward the honesty of the state of our being. Let this time, let our hearts, in this time, let our hearts be tender. In this time, let us sit with the tenderness of our experiences. Our hymn of contemplation this morning is hymn number 352, Find a Stillness. Our reading today is from a mentor of mine, Molly Hausch-Gordon, as we've been going through actually a series of 3 readings of hers, and this is the final one, at the tomb. Weeping may last for a night. Weeping may last for 1,000 nights, but joy comes in the morning. That morning we went to our beloved teacher's tomb. We went to anoint his body. We carried oil and cloths. We came to the tomb in sorrow, heads bowed low, but hope does not die so easily. It flickers inside, buried somewhere deep. Hope grows, blossoms like a rose, even through stone, even in hearts frozen by grief. When we arrived at the place where he lay, we dropped all that we carried in wonder, in fear, to see the tomb laid open and our beloved gone. "Do not weep," said the man. "This morning we rejoice. Love lives. Hope lives. Jesus is not here," he said. "Come and see, he is risen. Our beloved is risen. Our hope is risen. Can it be? Can it be?" Beautiful music, Brock. Thank you. Absolutely beautiful. Friends, it is a common critique of Unitarian Universalists that we take this day, Easter, to rush to the hope and the joy of this occasion and skip much of the sorrow and the suffering that the week preceding is usually about. And though these times are calling for hope, these times are certainly calling for hope. It is what it feels like we are needing right now. It's what's keeping us moving forward. It's a force that gets us day to day. It also feels like we are needing now, especially this year, to focus on the sorrow, to remember the pain in this story right alongside the joy. because our hearts are aching in these days, because there is so much to grieve in this whirlwind pace of change that has become our lives, because this Sunday comes at a time when I imagine that many of us are anticipating seeing some of the true impact of this pandemic: the death, the sickness, the loss. We need not seek too far in our lives for places where this old story of death and suffering, as well as resurrection, can speak to our hearts and experiences. We need not look too far to find a place to relate to the fears and the loss of those who surrounded Jesus of Nazareth. We need not look too far to find a mirror reflection of the doubt, the denial, the powerlessness that is a part of this story. For many of us have been sitting in feelings of powerlessness, feelings of doubt, fears, and the anticipation of sorrow. While speaking with friends and family this weekend, I was just checking in with a few folks. It seems like each one of us had to take a moment to just cry about what's happening in our world. Each one of us had a moment where this pandemic is getting to us, where the grief and the sorrow and the overwhelm of it all just gets inside our hearts, and we can no longer pretend that everything is all right. It's okay to not be okay right now. It's okay to not hold it together. It's okay to have a good cry. We are living through the unimaginable. Our sorrow is our strength. It is a sign of our humanity. It is the sign of our connections to each other. It is a sign of the ways we know we are experiencing love. Most often, I am able to be in touch with my own sorrows while in relationship to others, noticing through the grief the love that I have for another. I imagine that the disciples felt this way. Weeping may last for a night. Weeping may last for 1,000 nights, Molly House Gordon reminds us. Feeling helpless and hopeless, deep sorrow and doubt about what their lives truly mean in the grand scheme of things. Many stood by and watched. Some cheered on as this hope, the source of meaning and purpose, left the world. Folks continued to carry on, to do the things they needed to do, to bury and to mourn, some wondering exactly what could be done. Others, I imagine, busying themselves with tasks just to not sit in the deep grief of it all, finding distractions so they wouldn't completely fall apart, or maybe just so they could feel in control of something. When our deepest hope dies, it is hard to know what to do afterwards. Sure, there are next steps to take, things to do to maintain some sense of normalcy and routine. And yet, when we slow down, when we take a breath, when we come into this community, we are here to be reminded that everything is not normal, that this is not business or even busyness as usual. The invitation is to slow down, not to quickly rush to the ways we can fix this, not to attempt to pretend that our lives have not been completely changed, but to ease in, to take our time, to feel the grief, and to be real with one another. When I think of these disciples, I imagine many of them leaning on one another's shoulders with just tears streaming down their faces. Perhaps a few still in shock, imagining that this is a dream they will wake up from at any second. Their tears and reactions are our tears and reactions. In both places, those tears are the signs of our sorrow and our grief. And they are also our connection to the ways that love wins in our lives. Dear ones, not one of us is alone in going through a tender, difficult, and trying time at this moment. Not one of us has our stuff together. Not one of us is prepared for the deep sorrow and grief that this time has brought into our lives. Not one of us has every tool perfectly in their toolbox to face these days with confidence and competence. This is the unimaginable. The veil has been lifted. The truth as I see it and know it is that this global pandemic has connected all of us in a collective experience of grief and shock, loss, and doubt. We are not alone. Now more than ever, we are not alone. See, one of the things, if I can just get really honest with you all right now, that I cannot stand about the way that this Easter story is told is that so many make it about this one extraordinary figure. We want to make it about Jesus of Nazareth. We look to him to be the source of hope and inspiration, the source of joy in his individual resurrection. It just becomes all about him. But quite frankly, we don't have to view this story in that traditional way. In fact, our tradition bucks against the wild notion that it is all about one of us. That is just not our style. No, it's about all of us. It's about the relationships found in community through shared experiences, wisdom, truth, and tears. It's about a community inspired by the acts of one another to go out and to make the world a better place. It's about being there for one another in the midst of our grief, because that kind of relationship is an expression of love. And it is about being love to one another as the central value and message that has held our community together for 174 years at least, and will continue to bind us together in times that are most difficult and that tug on our heartstrings in ways that we have not experienced before. I was turning to some wisdom from a Franciscan sister, Ilia Delio, who writes about the times that we are in right now. And she writes, "Something dies, but something new is born, which is why the chaos of our times is, in a strange way, a sign of hope. Something new is being born within. Out of chaos, a star is born. Breakdown can be breakthrough if we recognize a new pattern of life struggling to emerge." I'm just going to say that last line again. Breakdown can be breakthrough if we recognize a new pattern of life struggling to emerge. We are creating that new pattern of life together. In these moments of breaking down, perhaps something new is breaking through. We are reminded this morning that love wins every single time. And not the sort of love that denies the truth of our experiences for some kind of rosier picture. No, love wins as we grieve with each other. Love wins as we reach out to our loved ones to ask them what they need. Love wins as we call others we know to go to the grocery store for us because we are risking our lives if we are in vulnerable populations when we leave our house. Love wins as we slow down and begin to feel what we need to feel. Love wins as we care for ourselves. Love wins as we share our burdens and our tears, even in moments when these acts feel like a sign of weakness or neediness. Love wins when we push through that lie and share our tears and our burdens and our grief and our sorrow with someone else. The hope of this day lies in each one of us and in our relationships. It is found in the fact that our hearts can break and that our hearts are able to extend love to those around us. It is found in those working hard in their homes to make masks for friends, for farm workers, for healthcare workers. Hope is found when we rise up to share with one another, to support each other, and to ask for the support that we need. Hope is found in the love and the acceptance we extend ourselves when we are not okay. And it's okay to not be okay. On this Easter Sunday, on this very special Sunday, let us not make this about one individual, but rather about the collective. Love wins in our tenderness. Love wins in our tears. Love wins in our grief, our anger, our rage, our sorrows. Let that be the hope of this day. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. And so here we are, my friends, at a final hymn. And I just have to share with you all, we're going to sing hymn number 268, Jesus Christ is Risen Today. Pat Dean made our hymn slides today, and we were joking back and forth over email about how rare this hymn is in our tradition. But this is the day that we get to sing this song. One day a year, really. And so I'll invite you to listen, not just for the messages about the individual, Jesus, but also to listen to the messages for the collective in this hymn. It's just not Easter if we can't have the Alleluias. So we invite you to remain muted and to sing out joyfully from home. Again, creating a collective song from wherever we find ourselves.
Earth and heaven in chorus sing.
As we extinguish our chalice flame this morning, let us read together the words printed here on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. Though we cannot be seated next to one another, we are still connected in this community. And so as we come to a time to close our service, I'll invite you to follow the benediction today with the words, I am rising up. So please join me in typing these words into the chat together following our benediction today. I want to invite you to place a hand over your heart and to just look into, if you can see the faces of your neighbors, just to look into here, place it in gallery view, take a look at one another. It is a beautiful gathered community this morning. As you go forward into this week, may you slow down into this moment. May you find moments for release, moments to share burdens, moments to be with it all. May your moments of sorrow be also a sign of hope and a sign of the deep love you have for our world, for other people, for life. Go forth knowing this. You are loved as you are, whole and holy. Go out into this world and be an expression of that love that wins every single time. Amen. Blessed be. May it be so. Eric, you're good to go for announcements.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'm Eric Van Duzen, a member of the Board of Trustees. Thank you for worshiping with us this morning and joining in this grand experiment. If you'd like to learn more about Unitarian Universalism in this congregation, we host a UU and U session on the third Sunday of every month, which we will be holding virtually going forward. We will share a link at the end of the service for those who wish to attend. All are invited to join a virtual coffee hour in 10 minutes after the service today. A separate link will be shared in the chat to join in small group discussions and connection. Please see the order of service information for our upcoming activities and events, including join a small group ministry. If you haven't taken the opportunity to be a part of a small group ministry thus far, now is a great time to stay connected this way. Our small group ministries are able to meet online over Zoom, and Reverend Michelle is happy to connect people who are interested in meeting together for support, spiritual nourishment, and sharing with one another. Visit the small group ministry page of our website to take a survey about interest and availability. Enjoy your day and your week, and we hope we'll see you next Sunday. Thank you.